don't subscribe to the old school way, nor the new school way, only the optimal way. The 80-20 Baseball Experience with Coach Ball.
Good day, everyone. Players, coaches, parents. Hey, on Monday, I sent out a tweet, a thought about Strasburg's pitch repertoire in response to him signing a $250 million contract. Well, that's old news now. And now it's all about G. Cole. And now that Gerrit Cole has signed a third of $1 billion contract, I'd like to share some valuable information with players and coaches that highlights a few things that we can all learn about pitching from Mr. Gerrit Cole. Let me be upfront by saying I will not be discussing Cole's contract, its AAV, nor will I be discussing the effect he'll have on the Yankees' 2020 World Series chances. Now, before diving in, it's very important for coaches and players to avoid deducing that a player has optimized his game just because he received a record-setting Major League contract. No doubt, Gerrit Cole is a stud, and I'm very happy for him. I'm very happy for his family. I'm happy for the Yankees. But Cole is a stud in spite of a few things going on with his delivery and with his pitch repertoire. First, regardless of being a two-time first-round pick, including the number one overall pick, Cole has adjusted and improved along the way. He wants to get better, and Gerrit avoids complacency. You can see it when you watch him pitch, and if you go back over time and watch video of him and listen to his interviews, he avoids complacency. I love it. I love to see that. A guy who's, been considered at the top elite since he was young, he's still every day thirsts to get better. I love that. Now, besides ditching his two-seam fastball upon arriving, in H-Town, Cole has greatly improved upon his stride direction. Now, back to the two-seam. That's a big thing that gets talked about, how he ditched his two-seamer and he's just throwing his four-seamers, and that the analytical team there in Houston, did their homework before and saw that the four-seamer was a lot more productive, and give those guys a lot of credit there in Houston. And, I know they got a bad rap. That front office got a bad rap right now in the news, but give them a lot of credit for seeing a part of somebody's game, a part of a player's game that wasn't on their team, that they analyzed and saw that could be improved. So, ditching his two-seamer, that really improved, his fastball effectiveness and his stride direction. His stride angle has improved a lot since his days at UCLA, where he went to college. And even early in his major league career, Cole's lead leg, his stride leg, so his left leg, would land at an acute angle around the 75-degree mark. But now he lands at around the 85-degree mark, with 90 degrees being measured from the line created by the front of the pitcher's plate, aka the pitcher's rubber, to the middle of home plate. So 90 degrees would be optimal, but essentially a straight line to the plate for all intents and purposes, as far as most coaches would understand. Now, we won't get into the hip stride and hip mobility in this podcast, but it's definitely something Gerrit has improved, and it shows with his stride angle improvement. And it has given Gerrit the opportunity to command the ball better, get better depth on his breaking ball, and better optimize his linear and rotational kinetic energy, i.e. more efficient pitching delivery. Now, pitcher's note, get physically stronger, then get that stride to 90 degrees, straight towards the center of home plate. Get stronger. Better mechanics, better pitching delivery start with strength and mobility. Get stronger, get more mobile, and then build a great pitching delivery, an optimal pitching delivery. And we're not going to get into that right now, but it's something to keep in mind and something to put at the forefront as a pitcher, as a pitching coach. Get stronger first, especially with that hip mobility and the hip strength. Okay. And again, it's not just that. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but you're going to get a huge bang for your buck when you start getting that area stronger. And not only that, I think it's a very neglected area of strength, and it's actually fixed very easily. You could do it right out on the field with your players, and players, you can do it right out. You don't even really need a lot of weight to get your hips stronger. Now, Gerrit also does an outstanding job of minimizing his movements during his delivery. Gerrit has a delivery that's easy on the eyes. And unlike many pitchers, it doesn't have extra flair to it. It doesn't have extra flair in his delivery. He doesn't fall into the trap of thinking cute and the trap of trying to be unique and cute when what really makes him great and what makes his delivery great is that he clearly understands the enormous value of minimizing than optimizing. Let me say that again. He understands the enormous value when it comes to being condensed with his delivery. He understands the value of minimizing his delivery and then optimizing his delivery. I'm not going to get into also all these things that make him like, size and strength and hand size and all that stuff. Obviously he's got, elite genetics or at least well above average genetics. But I want to talk about the things that can translate to all pitchers and what all pitching coaches can use with their pitchers. Now, pitchers, no extra movements. All right, get rid of those extra movements. Cute deliveries don't get you a scholarship. They don't get you on varsity. They don't help you get outs. They don't get you drafted, and it certainly doesn't get you 300 mil. All right, it's about consistently producing, and you consistently produce by being efficient and optimizing your delivery, not adding flair to it. So you might be wondering, what can the highest paid pitcher on earth improve upon? All right, he dominated last year, so there's thus, you might be thinking thus there's nothing more that can be improved, right? Well, it's that flawed deductive reasoning, that same flawed deductive reasoning that prevents most of us from seeing what I call spider flaw. Spider flaw. All right. I just like how that comes off the tongue there. Spider flaw. All right. Gerrit Cole is a great pitcher despite of a few flaws. So in spite of a flaw, I like to say spider flaw. This assessment error is well known as causation correlation fallacy. All right. It's well known throughout the world as a causation correlation fallacy, which is widespread in all areas of our lives today. If you pay attention, you'll see it in a lot of places, and especially in studies. And well, obviously with assessments, but you'll see it in studies where they'll, come up with a conclusion, and then years later they'll debunk that study and say, well, it was correlated, and yes, there was a relationship, but it wasn't causational. All right. So in baseball, this is something that burns a lot of players and a lot of coaches when attempting to copy or to learn from their favorite players. Now, hear me out on this. This is super important. It burns a lot of players and coaches trying to the causation correlation. So they see their player do something. They see their favorite player. They see an elite player, what they consider elite major league player, doing something, and it very well may be a big part of why he's successful. But it may also just be something it's just something he does, or I should say, in spite of that flaw, he's still a stud, all right? Spider flaw, all right? So, wait, what? What's that? Oh, my bad, guys. My producer, Chuck, just... Yeah, sorry, Chuck. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Mike Trout, he's flawless. Yeah, he's not spider flaw. Mike Trout's flawless. But the rest of the great players, well, they succeed even though their game has not yet been optimized. So don't get confused, and don't confuse great with optimal. Don't confuse great technique with optimal technique. Don't confuse great mechanics with optimal mechanics. All right, now moving forward. Now that we've given some color to the topic, let's discuss some areas of Mr. Cole's game that could use a tweak. The Yankees, I hope you're listening, all right? Houston took an above-average pitcher. So Houston took Cole from the Pirates, who was an above-average pitcher at the time, and made him elite. I wouldn't say he was way above average, but he was above average, and they made him elite. And you know what? He didn't even benefit from all that trash can pounding that was going on and down there, and then there are tunnels. But I digress. Now, moving forward, first, both experience and measurable player production leads me to believe that almost every pitcher would be better off perfecting one breaking ball rather than having multiple breaking balls. And we're going to talk about this with Gerrit Cole here, his slider and his curveball. And the less experienced the pitcher, the more this holds true. Major league pitchers like Cole have adult man strength and dedicate their work hours solely to baseball, while youth players, high school players, and even college players, not so much. And even with all that time they have in the big leagues and all the top-notch resources they have in professional baseball, the data shows that the vast majority of major league pitchers having multiple breaking balls is counterproductive. So according to Fangraph's pitch value data over the past 3 seasons, so this is a large sample size here, 3 full seasons, Gerrit Cole's slider per 100 pitches. Again, I like rates. WAR is a great stat in terms of quality and also longevity, but you could be the league, for example, you could play like 25 years, like you could play like 48 years, like Julio Franco, and your WAR is going to be exceptionally high. You might have averaged like 1 WAR a year, but you played 48 years, so you had like 48 wins above replacement, and so like you're in the top 25 all time, but you really only averaged 1 a year, which is above average, sure, or I should say not above average. It's one, it's 1 run above a replacement player, so it's definitely going to keep you a job for the most part. But I like rates. So Gerrit Cole's slider per 100 pitches over the last 3 years is far more and has measured out far more valuable than his curveball. Cole's slider is ranked above the league average in value per 100. Now, while his curveball has a pitch value that is below league average. So his slider is above league average and his curveball is below league average. This is production. These are the results. This isn't, just an eyeball test here. In fact, Cole's curveball has been at or below league average for 4 of the past 5 years. Instead of the curveball, the data shows throwing his changeup would be more advantageous. His changeup's value is actually above league average, as it ranks as the 28th best or the 28th most productive changeup in the league over the past 3 years. Now, we don't think of Cole as a changeup guy. We think of him as a guy that throws heat and has a really nice breaking ball, a nice slider. But if you watch Cole's highlights, all you watch is Cole's highlights and all you watch is the stuff that comes out on MLB.com and maybe some stuff on YouTube. If you only see his highlights, you're going to see heat and sliders a lot of the time. But if you watch him pitch a whole game, or if you watch him pitch multiple full games and you watch closely to exactly what pitches he's throwing, you're going to see some nice changeups in there. And he actually throws it, and it's very effective. I guess anytime you throw a fastball that's 98 miles an hour, if you can get a changeup at 88, to the hitter, they might as well be 50 miles an hour because they got no shot. Especially if you do it in the right situation and your location is good. Obviously, with the changeup, you want to keep it middle. You want to keep it down. I like middle, but definitely want to keep it down, knees or shin height, depending on the count. All right. So his changeup's above league average. His breaking ball is below league average. His slider's above league average. And I said breaking ball, his curveball is below league average. All right, Gerrit, hey man, you're a stud, but ditch the second breaking ball. Allocate that precious bullpen training time to pinpointing the fastball and perfecting the slider and the changeup. I think the same thing that's happening with the 4-seam, 2-seam usage you're seeing going on, in that many pitchers are scrapping their 2-seamers and only throwing the 4-seamer. I think that's going to start happening with the breaking balls. That's my guess. I think the data and just, 33 years of watching baseball and the last 20 really watching pitchers closely and studying pitching, this is what I've seen day in and day out. The quality of one breaking ball is far superior than the other. And then typically something else is not where it could be it's not optimized, where the fastball command is not optimized. And so in the bullpen, all your training sessions, you got to allocate time for that second breaking ball, when I think it would be much better off perfecting the finger placement, the release, the consistency, the repeatability of that primary breaking ball, and then allocating that additional time, whether it's 20% of your bullpen or 15% of that bullpen training time, rather than getting it to that second breaking ball that's usually inferior to your primary breaking ball. And I'm not saying the pitcher should throw one or the other primarily. That's up to the pitcher. Well, whatever works best for the pitcher. What I think is you find out what breaking ball works the best, and that's the one you really perfect. That's the one you really hammer down on. No pun intended, of course. An interesting side note on breaking balls, in Cole's slider is, if you watch it, and again, if you watch him and you watch a large sample size of, any pitcher, but just check out Cole, watch a large sample size of Cole pitching. And pretty much like any given pitcher and any given pitch, his slider already produces varying pitch profiles. Now, so why is that important, or why am I bringing this up is because some pitchers are the reason pitchers are trying to throw two different breaking balls a lot of times is they want to give the hitter a different look. And anyone I think this is really interesting. If you really pay attention closely to breaking balls, you're going to see this all day, every day, no matter who you're watching. Because it's just so hard at the speed and the velocity and the movement and all the things going into the delivery. It's just repeatability obviously repeatability is massively high up on scouts scale, on scouts list of important attributes, and college coaches, they want a pitcher that has repeatable delivery among some other things, rhythm and stuff like that. But that adds to command, right? So they want a repeatable delivery. So anybody who has studied pitchers closely is rarely going to see two consecutive sliders that have the exact same pitch profile, nor are you going to see two consecutive curveballs that have the same pitch profile. And in fact, very rarely does a pitcher throws 100 pitches and say maybe, let's say, they throw 20 sliders and 10 curveballs, or say they throw, just 30 sliders or 30 curveballs. Very few of those are even going to look within inches of each other in terms of horizontal and vertical movement. All right. It almost always varies from one pitch to the next. So pitchers that want to add some variation to their breaking ball, typically already it's built in. It's already built in to the primary breaking ball. Pitching coaches, first perfect the command of the fastball to both sides of the plate, and then elevate with command. All right, so both sides of the plate with your fastball, and then that intermittent elevation. That's 3 different pitches. The plate is 17 inches. Let's say you're working the black. That's 18 inches apart on your fastballs. You perfect the pitch, a fastball 18 inches apart, when the sweet spot of a bat is, far less than that. And then you elevate, and elevate with accuracy. You have 3 pitches, and it kind of creates a triangle, and that's a large area for a hitter to cover effectively. Then perfect the changeup, middle of the plate, knee height with less than 2 strikes, or at shin height with 2 strikes. Working the shins and ankles with 2 strikes, working it at knee height. You want to keep the changeup down. Changeup down. Fastball to both sides. Elevated. Changeup, knee height. Don't worry so much about in and out, especially you youth high school coaches, high school pitchers, high school pitching coaches, youth coaches for sure, even college coaches, and even professional pitchers. You know what? If you can perfect your fastball to both sides and elevate with some accuracy and a little bit of velocity and some good tight spin, good spin rate, and then you can throw your changeup middle of the plate, but at the knee height. I think the thing with the changeup is not so much accuracy in and out. I think what really is important with the changeup is the accuracy on the height. Pound the knee level with less than 2 strikes, and when you get to 2 strikes, so long as there's not 3 balls. 2 strikes with less than 3 balls, you're going shin, ankle height with that changeup. And lastly, perfect one breaking ball that you can consistently throw for strikes. Tunneled, tight, and with good depth. All right, that's 5 pitches. Fastball, glove side, fastball, arm side, fastball, elevate, changeup, knees to below knees, middle, knees, below knees, and then a breaking ball 4 strikes, a breaking ball that you can throw for, that you do throw for strikes, that's tunneled, it's tight, and has good depth. All right. Now moving on to my second suggestion for Mr. Cole, and a suggestion that I believe will have the biggest impact on Big Gerrit's game, and something that all pitchers should work on, and that is by adding, I think Gerrit should add 4 to 6 more inches of hip glute lead. All right. I estimate that the ace in pinstripes will shave another half run or so off that stellar ERA. And with that said, and I understand he had a 2.5, so a half run puts him at 2, but I think you can do it. Now, let's take away, one thing that might affect that, I think, is going to be, I know he had a short porch there in left in Houston, but I think in right actually might come into play a little bit more in that, he has a lot of velocity, he's going to generate some exit velocity just because of his velocity. And, that ball in right field at Yankee Stadium, it doesn't take much to get it out. So anyways, that ERA, I think he could shave off, park effect, with park effect, all considered, and a weighted, kind of a weighted ERA. I think he'll shave off another half run just by adding 4 to 6 inches more of his hip and glute lead upon delivery. Now, with that said, Cole's hip and glute lead has improved approximately 4 to 6 inches from what I've seen since his days at UCLA. In fact, he did a very poor job of having hip glute lead. In other words, his dynamic balance wasn't very stable. His dynamic balance wasn't very good. His torso flexion wasn't in a good position with his torso. And now he has increased that, what would be called your rightward lateral torso flexion, upon striding. He has improved it by 4 to 6 inches since his days at UCLA and since he got it in the major leagues. And in fact, I think that component of his delivery has been the most productive improvement overall, even larger than the impact on his game that he got from ditching that 2-seamer, and even more so than the improvement and the impact his improved stride direction has had. I think his hip glute lead. Now, if you can look on YouTube, you can see hip glute lead. There's not a lot of it out there, but you'll see videos of hip glute lead. I'm going to try to put one up there, what I'm talking about. Actually, I may have one on my website. On my website, 8020baseball.com. I think I have one, but I'm discussing how to hold runners at first base in the video. So if you go to the homepage, you'll see how to hold runners at first base, and I actually talk about the hip glute lead a little bit, but you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, for those of you that don't think Gerrit can improve, and you think that, he's already got this, 1/3 of $1 billion contract. He's the highest paid pitcher in the game ever, and whatnot. And he's got to be perfect, or at least he's got to be, why would you mess with him? And I think Gerrit Cole's thought process is different than that. I think he's looking for little tweaks. I'm talking about little tweaks here, not, overhauls by any means. This guy doesn't need overhauls. And a lot of pitchers don't need an overhaul, but they can all use little tweaks. And it goes back to the Spida flaw. With the major leaguers, they're good. A lot of times the genetics and their grit and competitiveness hide a flaw. With Gerrit, genetics hid a flaw for a long time. I think with his hip glute lead, I think his dynamic balance wasn't optimal by any means, and I think definitely needed a lot of improvement. If you go back and watch video of him pitching at UCLA, it's pretty bad. And what he gets by with is just an athletic arm. He's a strong guy. He's a big, strong guy with an athletic arm and big hands. And it allows him to kind of bring the ball through and consistently. The hands help him consistently command, even though his arm's kind of whipping through quick and late. And the strength of his body and his build allows him to, kind of put that stress on his shoulder and on his elbow and things like that a lot of pitchers wouldn't, be fortunate enough to get away with. But with that said, I think that, there's definitely things he can improve upon. Go watch any of his starts from any of the last year and tally up how many of his fastballs hit the initial target, i.e. where the catcher sets up before the pitch was released. So go watch any start of Gerrit Cole's. I don't care. Go watch his 15 strikeout performance in a playoff. Go watch any of his starts, all right? And you will see that the catcher's glove, all right, before the pitch is released, right before it's released, all right, almost just seconds before it's released, not even seconds, sorry, milliseconds before the ball is being released by Gerrit Cole, watch where the catcher's glove is, and then assess the accuracy. And I've done this with a lot of pitchers, but I've also done it with Gerrit Cole, and it's less than every game. It's less than 50%. He's accurate. And what I mean by that is the glove is moving, and I'm not talking like moving an inch. If the glove is moving a couple inches, I count that as accurate. What I'm saying is he misses his target by a foot or more 50% of the time with his fastball. And that's counting quality misses, such as an 0-2 fastball or maybe a 1-2 fastball up in the zone, and one that he's trying to elevate, and thus it's still, he's still, it goes maybe another foot or 6 inches above where the top of the zone. I'm not counting that as a miss, and nor am I counting like an 0-2 slider that misses down. All right, obviously an 0-2 slider, the catcher's not. You'll see sometimes you'll see the catchers hit their glove on the dirt and hit their glove on the ground, but they don't usually put their glove out on the out in front of them, hold it, like in a beer league softball catcher might hold it like a basket catch style. They're not holding it basket catch style on top of the plate and saying here, bounce it here. So of course the glove is going to move on an 0-2 slider if they get it down, but it's an effective. I consider that an accurate pitch to an extent, right? If you're bouncing it in front of the plate and things like that, especially with say a runner on base. I'm sorry, with a runner on base, and definitely with a runner on third base, then I would count that as a miss. All right, so I try to give him the benefit of the doubt on that because, a miss it could be a quality miss, and so I don't count that as a miss, all right? And it's less than 50%, his accuracy rate, even factoring all that in. So he's less than 50% accurate hitting the glove, all right? And I'm not talking with an inch or two. I'm talking where he's moving that glove. It's noticeably moving. And you'll see that fastball is supposed to be in, it's down the middle, all right? That fastball is supposed to be away, and it's down the middle, or it's even running in a little. All right. You're going to see breaking balls 0-2, where that catcher's on the outside corner at the knees with his glove, and that especially his curveball it backs up. It doesn't break, it backs up, and it just it's kind of if they say frisbee's kind of in there, it flattens out, and it just kind of it call it a hanging breaking ball, right? But it's just a flat breaking ball, and the catcher's glove moves a whole foot. Now it technically is probably inside that strike zone rectangle that you see on TV, but middle third, a little elevated, is not where that catcher wanted it. So you could say, well, it's a strike, and so on the stats, you're going to see, well, his accuracy with that pitch is good, but that is a miss. So his miss rate is over 50% with his pitches. So adding extra pitches, in my opinion, is not a good idea for him. I think he needs to triple down, quadruple down on the pitches he has, hammer the fastball to the corner of both sides, elevate with accuracy, get that slider so he can throw it with a consistent tunnel, tight, and with good depth. All right, and then follow it up and finish it up with a quality changeup. And I think he has a good changeup. I just don't think he throws it enough. I want to say he throws it 6% of the time. So he's at 1 out of every 13 pitches or whatever. I think if he threw that 10% of the time, and that 10% is not random. I think you got to go off a scouting report. But if you threw that 10% of the time, I think it would help his fastball. I think it would also, and I would also use it instead of not always at the same time as I would, or at the identical time as a curveball, but I would use it in place of that in terms of my practice and bullpen time and training allocation in terms of my training time. As I wrap this up, I'd like to give my old high school pitching coach, Jeff Patterson, who was the scout that actually first drafted Gerrit Cole way back in 2008, and who is now a national scout for the Yankees. I want to give Jeff a big shout out. Congrats, Jeff. You finally got your guy. I'm happy for you guys. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day. Follow me on Twitter at 8020baseball_baseball, 8020_baseball, as I'm sharing one preseason tip for both coaches and players each day until March. And we started that a week ago. And check out the 8020baseball.com website. There's a lot of great content there. At this time, there's like 10 articles, 4 long-form video tutorials. It's a lot of good stuff. And please retweet this. Please retweet this if you liked it. Again, thank you for your time. This has been Coach Bo. Take care.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Experience.
This is a really good team, and so you have to earn everything you have against them and take opportunities when they present themselves.
Take it to the field.